live from the Sinister District and the great beyond. Good evening, everyone, everything, and all creatures of the night. I am Michael Ball, alongside Mr. Curbs. Tonight we head to Fairfax County, Virginia, where the Bunnyman hides. Stay right where you are. You're listening to the Sinister District. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sinister District. I am Michael Paul, alongside Mr. Curbs, and our special guest today, Wes. Welcome.
Hi there.
How are we doing, Curbs?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Oh, really? Are you ready for Easter?
I am ready for Easter.
Well, today we're talking about a case sort of related to Easter. This is about the closest we could get to an actual bunny. This is the Bunnyman case. From the 1970s, Virginia, an incident happened. We don't fully know what it is. An urban legend, maybe. A man in a bunny costume with a hatchet who killed a bunch of people. We don't know. So that's why we're here today, to talk to Wes. And, he will inform us and everybody listening. So welcome, Wes, to the show. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Just so you know, there is a case number. Case number 858-748 from the County of Fairfax, Virginia Police Department, dated October 29th, 1970. I'm looking at the police record.
Oh my.
So this is like considered an official case by the police.
Indeed, and it's even called Nature of Case, Large White Rabbit at Large.
Well, there you go.
Oh dear. Oh.
There are in fact two bunnymen. Maybe people should know that. There are in fact two of them. One is entirely an urban legend. It did not happen, could not happen, didn't happen. There was no such bunny man as that person. And then there was also a historical bunny man who is documented in newspapers and police records. And they have different stories. And which one you've heard is largely a matter of how much research you've done on the internet, I guess.
Right.
So I guess tell us a little bit about the real case, the real Bunnyman.
Okay. Well, the real case involves a couple named the Bennetts. And I probably should tell you how I got involved in this. Way back when, and it was 2005, my daughter was in a high school in Fairfax County, and she was in a sort of a film class, a production class, and she wanted to do a documentary about the famous Northern Virginia Bunnyman. Now, I say famous because this was an urban legend that she and her classmates all knew about. But what happened was I directed her, at least I think it was me that did this, I directed her to an article on the Fairfax County Library site by a researcher who heard these stories about a mythical bunny man. And then he did the research, and lo and behold, he found newspaper articles that indicated that there was a real bunny man. So just so people keep it straight, maybe I should tell you a little bit about the false bunny man. The urban legend is that there was once an insane asylum somewhere near the old Colchester Road in Fairfax County, Virginia, and that there was an escaped inmate who dressed, the details are unclear. He either dressed as a bunny, carried a hatchet, and killed rabbits, which he strung up on a rope of some sort, and he was generally a frightening character in that neighborhood. Now, the funny thing about this story was that it got very wide reception among children. I used to play rugby, and I played rugby with guys who were probably teenagers in the early 70s, and they remember hearing about the Bunny Man when they were trick-or-treating. And my daughter was a teenager in 2005, and she heard about the Bunny Man. So just just to tell you, this story is long-lived. It's been around for 30 years. Now, that's the mythical Bunny Man. There is, in fact, a bridge. It's a railroad bridge on Old Colchester Road, and it's where Old Colchester Road goes under this railroad bridge. And the Fairfax County Police used to route teenagers away from there. I went there one time on a Halloween, and there were some people there, and the police were very wary of people gathering there because the track was active. And what teenagers used to do is they would climb up from Old Colchester Road onto the embankment where the tracks were. Now, these are Amtrak trains, and they come along really quickly and unexpectedly, and it was a major danger for the police, and they wanted to keep people away from there, so they posted signs, and I think they even have a video camera there so they could tell when there are congregations, and they send out cruisers. So that's the fake Bunny Man location. Now, the historical Bunny Man location, as it turns out, is not far from that site. The historical Bunny Man location involves a field. I think it may have been a cornfield. And this couple, the Bennetts, they were parked in a car in the cornfield. And they were about to be engaged. They were engaged and they were about to be married. And the story goes that they were just sitting there discussing their future when all of a sudden a man in a bunny suit, and this would have been a male, a white male, and they figure he was probably between 18, 20, thereabouts years old, came up and started screaming at them about trespassing. Well, all of a sudden they heard glass breaking, and apparently something was thrown at the car, which caused the side window to break. I think it was. I haven't heard this story in quite a while. I have a YouTube video about it where I interview them. Anyway, they hit the gas, drove away, and they went over to a relative's house. Now, this took place on Guinea Road in Fairfax. And the location, as it turns out, nowadays has a brewery there called the Bunny Man Brewery. It's kind of an interesting thing. And that is it's like a central gathering point, your one-stop shop for all Bunny Man stories. The guy who runs the brewery always gets people coming in to talk about the Bunny Man. Anyway, when they got to their location, there was a lot of broken glass, and the woman said she had a wiglet on and there was broken glass in her hair. And when they looked down on the floorboards of the car, they found a hatchet. So apparently this fellow threw a hatchet into the car and they drove off with it. And they still have the hatchet. And what happened was some friends of theirs somehow or another borrowed the hatchet or whatever, and they put it on a plaque and gave it to them. And the plaque has a little brass plate that says something about in commemoration of your hair-raising adventure. So that's the story of the Bennetts. Now, what happened was Brian Conley, who is the librarian with the Fairfax County Library System, he did a lot of good research, and he mentioned this story. And this story was related in the pages of the newspapers of the time. Now, that was the first Bunny Man incident. There were, in fact, two. But what happened as a result of the first incident was I realized that the story mentioned that he was going to the Air Force Academy or had graduated from the Air Force Academy. I'm not certain which. So in 2005, seeking to get a really good scoop for my daughter's story, I sent a stamped addressed envelope to the Air Force Academy Alumni Center asking them if they would forward this letter to Bob Bennett, I believe Bob Bennett was his name, of the graduating class that I calculated. Well, some time passed, and then I got a phone call because I had put my information in this letter. He got it. The Academy was as good as their word. They forwarded the letter. He received it. He gave me a call. I asked if we could interview. He said he'd be happy to. And we talked about the true story of the Bunny Man. Now, once again, that's on a YouTube video. And the funny thing about this story was that he was completely unaware of the legend of this Bunny Man at all. He did not know that this Bunny Man attack was reported in the papers and became the genesis for this urban legend that lasted for decades. He didn't know that until he got my letter and we talked about it, which I thought was kind of interesting. Well, that was the first Bunnyman incident. Then there was a second. The second involved a night uh, guardsman, somebody who was that there was a new housing development there. They were building houses. A lot of the houses were incomplete. And the roaming guard saw a man in a bunny suit, again, with a hatchet, and he was hacking away with the hatchet at some of the porch structures. He was banging away, yelling, and the man shined a flashlight on him or something. He ran away, and that's the last anybody heard of the Bunny Man. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the story of the Bunny Man.
Oh my.
So the real life Bunny Man is the inspiration for the fictional story of the Bunny Man?
Well, yeah, actually, he may be an inspiration for more than that. Yes, I believe that was Brian Conley's deduction. Now, once again, he's the librarian. He got interested in the story because he heard these stories about an urban legend about the Bunny Man. And when he did some research, first of all, there never was an insane asylum in Fairfax County. That's false. There are no accounts of some sort of a murderous Bunny Man or an insane Bunny Man. That's all false, too. Nothing like that ever happened anywhere near Old Colchester Road. Apparently, these were stories that kids had read about in the papers or they heard their parents talk about, and it just seemed to be the genesis for this urban legend, this multi-decade urban legend. Now, have either of you seen the film Donnie Darko?
I've never
haven't.
fully watched it.
Well, there's a bunny man in it. And his name is Ralph, but there is a bunny man in it. He's something of a sinister, mysterious character. And he wears this creepy-looking bunny suit. The mask on the bunny suit is quite good. And you find out why he's a bunny man as the story proceeds. But anyway, as I saw this film, I began to wonder, why would he incorporate a bunny man in the plot of this film? So I did some research, and I discovered that the director of the film, and I don't remember his name, I think it was Kelly. Believe his last name was Kelly. The director of the film grew up in Virginia. And he was the right age to have heard the Bunny Man stories when he was a boy. So I'm thinking, I wrote a letter to him. I never did get an answer asking, say, was your Bunny Man in this movie a result of the stories you heard as a child of a Bunny Man in Fairfax County? He grew up in Southern Virginia, but this story had legs, as they say. It made it all the way across the country. And I suspect that the Ralph the Bunny Man in Donnie Darko is an outgrowth of the Bunny Man stories that the director heard as a child.
I think you're right on that. I think I heard something about that like the whole urban legend was like the inspiration for the movie. Especially since the director, I just Googled it. His name is Richard Kelly. He grew up in
Richard
Virginia.
Kelly, right.
Yeah.
I think I remember coming across two sources. One indicated, yeah, I was kind of influenced by that one. And I think in a different interview or somewhere else it said, nah, there was something else that influenced that. So I guess it goes either way depending upon what source you believe. But anyway, I'm looking at so I used to belong to a Harley Davidson owners club in Fairfax. And what I did was we would all organize rides. And what I did was I came up with a Bunny Man ride. Now, my Bunny Man ride, it started from downtown Fairfax, where the Harley Davidson dealership is. And what I would do is I'd get a certain amount of riders, and we'd hit the roads, and we'd go to Bunny Man sites. There were actually 3 of them, and they're all within Fairfax. They're easily visited today. One site is the house where the Bunny Man hatchet was hacking away at the porch. That house still stands. One time I visited the neighbors and I asked, does anybody remember this? But nobody was there in 1970. Everybody had moved into that area subsequently. But that house still stands. And so that's one of the stops on my motorcycle Bunny Man tour. The other stop is over to the brewery, Bunny Man Brewery, which is located approximately where the field was that the Bennetts were sitting in their car, the site of the first Bunny Man story, approximately. And then the third stop on the Bunny Man tour is that railway bridge where on Old Colchester Road, where the false story of the Bunny Man was, the Bunny Man urban legend. So all three of these sites exist today. You can visit them if you like, and that's the story of the Bunny Man insofar as I know it. Now, I stopped in and visited the Bunny Man Brewery one time, and being the Bunny Man Brewery, it's kind of a cool place. You ride by on a motorcycle, and it's an industrial sort of building, and they have a patio in the back and picnic tables, and you can drink some of their various artisan beers, and there are woods behind that. And what they cleverly did was they did a plywood cutout of a man in a bunny suit, and they have it peeking out from behind a tree.
Oh.
And yeah, it's kind of cool. And I believe they light it up at night, so you see this bunny man. And you can buy stickers there, and the sticker has a man in a bunny suit, and that's their logo and everything. Anyway, I was talking to these fellows, and they pointed out that one of them did some research and pointed me towards the original police record that was located on the internet. So I found that, and what it was sort of an inverse microfiche, it was white text on black, and it was extremely hard to read. So what I did was I took this document, I inverted it, I cleaned it up as best as I could with Photoshop, and then I did an optical character recognition software on it, and I came up with a text file of the police record. So I'm looking at that now. Now, the police record is interesting because it gives some details that didn't make it into the Bennett's account, and it isn't part of the urban legend either. The fact is, the police record, and they're police records from, let me get a date here, 10/29/1970, and then there was a subsequent record from November 1970, and that deals with the bunny man with the axe chopping at the porch. As it turns out, the Fairfax County Police had a lead as to a car being parked in an area. Let me find that. I highlighted it. Here we go. All right, so there's a detailed police record, date received 10/29/1970. Case, large white rabbit at large, vandalism. And the details are this. There was a car bearing Maryland registration, 1970, and there's a lot of redactions, so there are things you do not get, in the parking lot. In the vehicle, on the front seat, partially concealed, was a white rabbit costume. On the floor were several books pertaining to sex. I'm guessing that was pornography. The vehicle was listed to and then here's the redaction, in Baltimore, Maryland. The subject who brought the vehicle to the parking lot is described as a white male, 20 to 30 years of age, 70 inches tall, stocky build, and further described as rather handsome. So the police had a lead. They had a good lead on the identity of the bunny man. But apparently they never followed it up, and in the police record that was released to the public, there are a lot of redactions, so you don't find any names. There's another story here in the police record about a telephone call from a subject who told the police, "You don't know me, I'm known as the Axe Man. You have been messing up my property by dumping tree stumps, limbs, and brush and other things on the property." So the police had a lead they knew the Axe Man, the bunny man, was connected to some property. So I'm guessing if there is anybody alive associated with the Fairfax County Police, detectives or whatnot, they probably have a very good idea of what the identity of our bunny man or our Axe Man probably was.
Well, it sounds like they have a name, but they just redacted it for the public, right?
Yeah, well, that apparently this text document is kind of rough. It was hard to read, very hard to read. There's also a story about where they're interviewing children, because apparently some children supposedly at the Laurel Ridge School, which is near Guinea Road, the Bunny Man site, they were talking to some children who apparently knew of the Bunny Man or talked to the Bunny Man, but nothing came of that. And let's see, they visited the porch where the intersection of Guinea Road and Pomeroy Drive, that's where the building was that the Bunny Man took a hatchet to. There were several hack marks on the post, so there's physical evidence that this indeed happened. But here's the thing about that area. It was all regraded and redirected. So the actual sites are kind of hard to find. One house is still there. We think we know where the cornfield was, but by and large, Guinea Road in Kings Park, West District of Fairfax, is now somewhat different than it was in 1970.
Could it be that maybe they just never looked too much into it because, like, I guess the crimes that he committed, like, weren't, like, super serious? Like, it sounds like he committed just, like, 2 acts of, like, vandalism. And, like, I feel like if he was actually, like a serial murderer, like the urban legend describes, they probably would have taken it, like, more seriously.
Well, to be honest, and reading between the lines of this police record, and it looks like the investigator's name was W.L. Johnson of the Fairfax County Police Department, I get the impression that he sort of got fed up with following loose ends that really didn't go anywhere. He interviewed some children. The kid said, "Look, I don't know the Bunny Man. I never talked to him. I've just heard of him." And he kind of threw up his hands, and investigation was closed. So, yeah, you're right. Oh, there's one more detail. There was a redaction here. It said the subject spoke in a middle tone, and he felt that the subject had a French accent. So,
Wow.
yeah, you get all these oddball details in this police record. And let's see if there's anything else that I highlighted here that might be of interest. He referred to himself as, there was a stakeout. That's right. The Fairfax County Police organized a stakeout to try and pounce on this fellow, but nothing came of it. It set up at 2300 hours, which is 11 p.m., and ended at 1 a.m., negative results. So nothing came of that, and they had other things going on, and they closed the story, closed the case.
Which house was that they were watching?
Let's see. Mr. So-and-so may be the person posing as the White Rabbit. The description that Mr. is similar to the description of the subject. I'm not seeing that. It's confusing keeping the story straight here in these police records. Let me look. This would have been 11/4/1970, so I'm guessing that this was the house that was hacked at by the hatchet. So
Okay.
I'm guessing what they did was maybe the builder who was building homes there requested that the police, please take a watch on this area so we don't have any more vandalization of our homes. I don't know.
Interesting. Wow.
But anyway, if you go on YouTube and you if you search on "I interviewed the Bunny Man victims," by Wes Clark, you'll find the audio of my 2005 conversation with the Bennetts. And it's an interesting story. It's funny to listen to. I talked to Bob, and then I talked to his wife, Dusty. Now, you had asked about if I could forward you their whereabouts. What happened was I tried following up years later, and I no longer have a lead for the Bennetts. I don't have their address or phone number or email or anything like that. So I don't know what happened. They retired and changed address or whatever, but I no longer have that.
Okay.
But you can hear them on that YouTube video. And there's also a link in the notes to the police record. So that'll forward you to the text file that I created that the Fairfax County Police developed on the story.
Well, we'll definitely link that in the description so everybody could check that out. But is there anything you want to talk about in particular that you had discussed in the interview?
Well, as I said, I was kind of surprised that Bob Bennett didn't know anything about an urban legend of a bunny man until I told him. And he was the main player in the story, which I thought was interesting. And then, I think at some point in the interview, I asked him, what were you doing in a field with a woman who's about to be with your fiance? And then I thought, well, wait a minute. I know very well what they were doing. They were probably talking and making out or something. But no, that's the interview pretty much speaks for itself, actually.
Wow. I think maybe it was just so chaotic and everything. He couldn't put the pieces together. I could see that. but there's just so many different cases of this bunny man. This is a really interesting case.
Well, this is the actual bunny man. I'm aware that there are others. There are stories that
Right.
seem to have branched off, and I see that if you go on YouTube and you type bunny man, you will see all sorts of videos. Most of them are absolutely bogus, and they have to do with urban legends or things that were featured on some, the scariest places in America, and one of which is Bunny Man Bridge and things like that. But
Right.
where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and the fire of this story was the Bennetts and this house that had the bunny man attack the porch.
Wow. This keeps happening with famous legends. It gets overtaken by these other things, but the true story is
But people talk.
a little different.
It's like that game of telephone you may have played when you were in Scouts or something. You say something to one
Exactly.
person, he repeats it in a circle, and by the time it comes back, it has no resemblance at all to what you had said.
Yeah, people take the story and they drag it, and then it becomes almost completely fictional.
Yeah, especially if one of the people is, has a taste for a story and likes to develop one aspect of it and comes up with the story of a man skinning rabbits or something, which is why he's called the Bunny Man. Oh, wait, I thought he was called the Bunny Man because he wore a bunny costume. And, the whole thing gets a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think this Bunny Man Bridge actually is then? If it's the most famous case, was it part of a real event? What?
The Bunny Man Bridge?
Right.
It was nothing. It had nothing to do with a bunny man of any kind. What it was is a place where teenagers gathered. It's remote, I'll give it that. And it's kind of spooky looking, I suppose, at nighttime. And, going through the bridge is an interesting experience. That was a part of my motorcycle tour because people put all sorts of bunny-related graffiti in there. The local teenagers. Yeah. And but there's nothing historical about the bridge whatsoever. It's just Amtrak where it crosses Old Colchester Road about, 40 or 50 feet above the road. And it's out of the way place in a very built up and urban section of Virginia, Northern Virginia. And there's nothing remarkable about it other than the fact that people let their imaginations run wild and came up with a insane asylum that was never there and a bunny man that was never associated with the place.
So is the place officially called Bunny Man Bridge? Did it get renamed?
Yeah, yes. Well, when you say official, if you said Bunny Man Bridge to the Fairfax County Police, they'd know right away what you're talking about because they're used to routing teenagers away from the spot. There are a couple of farms there, and I'm guessing that the people who actually live along Old Colchester Road aren't fond of having cars parked there at night with teenagers hanging out and, probably drinking beer, whatever, and underage whatever's going on out there. And as I said, it's a dangerous spot. I don't encourage anyone to climb up the embankment from Old Colchester Road to where the tracks are because, and I know this from experience when I was a boy, those trains come up fast and they're not all that noisy. So it is dangerous.
So this is just completely fake. The bridge, this escaped asylum patient,
Yes. Yeah, completely mythical. Yeah, that's the one that gets all of the attention because it's very widely distributed in media. The one that doesn't get attention is the real story that was developed by Brian Conley doing some investigative work and yours truly interviewing the victims and the police records that are available with all the redactions.
Right.
So one is more exotic than the other, but
Yeah. The other one probably sounds better in newspaper stories, which is why they probably published about it.
If you'd like to talk to Michael Paul or Mr. Curbs, shoot an email to theSinisterDistrict@gmail.com. That's theSinisterDistrict@gmail.com. You can also join the Sinister District Discord server in the description. This is the Sinister District.
I believe Brian Conley's article is still up. If you do a search on Brian, B-R-I-A-N, and then Conley, C-O-N-L-E-Y, and he is or was with the Fairfax County Library. I think he's associated with the main library, and it's called the Virginia Room. And the Virginia Room is where they gather stories like this and history and things particular to Virginia. He's the one who did the story that's actually posted on the internet, and it makes interesting reading. It's sort of in chapters, and he describes exactly what he did to develop the story and to discover the facts about it.
So what else can you tell us about this house that was slashed at? Do we know anything else about this house?
It's not very remarkable, to be honest. There are thousands of people who drive by it all the time. It doesn't look like the house from Psycho or anything like that. There is nothing architecturally interesting about it at all. It was a house that was built in the early 70s. It looks like all the other houses in the area. And you drive by it all the time and not know there was anything particular about it. Now, once again, the people who live there did not live there in the 70s. They're aware that there's some lore associated with their house. I believe that's what the neighbor told me. But the neighbor said, look, I didn't live here at the time. They didn't live here at the time. And all we know is stories from other people. So I think you'd be hard-pressed to find people who were there in 1970 still living in the area. Now, there is an interesting house on Old Guinea Road that's just up from the Bunnyman house, and this is what looks like a log cabin, and it looks like it's half buried alongside of the road. It's in a different grade entirely, and that's kind of interesting. But other than that, there's nothing really remarkable about the house.
Maybe that cabin's it. Maybe that's where the asylum patient was.
You see, now you're starting it yourself, aren't you? This is how rumors start.
Exactly. So wait, so the Bunnyman was just slashing at just like that house for no reason? Like he just wanted to slash at something?
Well, actually, from what I understand, talking to the guys at the brewery and elsewhere, it appears that the Bunnyman was just somebody who objected to development taking place in his neighborhood. Apparently, he owned property there, or some of his family owned property there, and they were building a housing development. He was opposed to it, and he also didn't like people pulling up in cars and parking in fields in the area, and he just wasn't a fan of that. And then, as it says somewhere in the police records here, he wasn't a big fan of the Axeman dumping tree stumps, limbs, and brush and other things on the property, messing up my property. So
it's almost like maybe like an environmental kind of thing.
Well, that's when the environmental movement began in the early 70s. I remember that very clearly. That's when people started to care about trash and litter and the air we were breathing. That's when it began. Back then, we called it environmentalism. It's called other things now, but that probably played a part in it as well.
It's interesting. And do you think that could have anything to do with the car? Like maybe he was like against the car because of like carbon emissions or something?
I suspect not. I think basically he was opposed to the encroachment in his area. You know, he may have been one of these old Virginia fellows who had a long history with that property, or his family did, and they were just upset that it was getting parceled out and houses popping up everywhere and the house getting redirected, the road getting redirected, and maybe the Bunnyman just hated change. Now, one thing about the Bunnyman that I think is interesting is that according to the police record, if he was about 20 20 to 30 in 1970. That would make him, what, 50, 60, 70? He would probably be in his late 70s, maybe, or mid to late 70s, or even early 80s, depending. He might still be alive. Now, if I were this fellow, I would, if I became aware of this urban legend, I would point out, yeah, that was me. or a member of the family said, yeah, that was my cousin. I could tell you all about that. There's an old saying that truth is the daughter of time. The more time passes, the more the truth begins to emerge, because people get more loose-lipped. And I don't know what the statute of limitations is for vandalism or throwing an axe in someone's car window, but it's been, what, 50 years now, 56 years. You'd think it'd be safe for him to come out. So I'm guessing he may be dead.
That's true. That also could be a possibility. If he's not, then there's just like some 70-year-old, like possibly French guy who used to dress up as a bunny in his
my bunny man days.
I remember my bunny man days.
Yeah, je suis le loup. Yeah, I am the bunny. Yeah, c'est moi, je suis le loup.
Man, this guy doesn't sound too bad. I mean, the real urban legend, they really overemphasized it.
Yeah, there's no telling what the bunny man's motivations were. It's been too long now, and I would have liked to have seen somebody with the police force, coming up with an article or a paper on, yeah, I investigated this, and here's the story, and it would probably still be redacted. I guess what you need is a source in the Fairfax County Police Department to look up case number 858748 and tell us what all the redactions are. That was an invitation to your listeners, by the way.
if you work for the Fairfax County and you can unredact some files, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great, but that's not how it works. And although I'm guessing everybody who was involved with it, they're all retired now. I don't know what would happen. And which probably means they don't have access to the files anymore either.
Yeah, do you think they would even have the unredacted files or not?
Well, that's a good question, because this is a 56-year-old story, and but I could tell you who would be really interested are folklorists like Brian Conley or the Virginia Historical Society, or if there's a Northern Virginia or a Fairfax County Historical Society, they would be very interested in seeing unredacted stories, because that's what historians do. And who knows, there may be a booklet someday, the real Bunny Man revealed, that may come out by somebody's detective work. Don't know.
So they found someone who is like a possible suspect, but they just never followed up on it.
Yeah, it appears that the police had a good idea on who this person was, because they found a car with Baltimore, apparently registered to Baltimore, with Baltimore, Maryland plates with a bunny costume in it. I mean, what sort of a coincidence is that? And the fellow had a literary taste where he liked reading porn. And it would have been a simple matter for the officer to call in, run the plates, and come up with a name, wouldn't it? So there's the unresolved true story of the Bunny Man. That's about everything I know, frankly.
After the whole Bunny Man thing blew up, maybe he went back to Maryland, never went back to Virginia. Yeah,
this could very well be a Marylander. Have there been any Bunny Man sightings in Maryland? Or did this fellow just grow up? Or did he enlist? Did he just become a wage earner? Did he just take a job, get married, have kids, forgot about the entire thing? It's entirely possible that the Bunny Man, if he still lives today, he's entirely forgotten about this whole thing, and it was just a short chapter in his life, and he isn't aware, like Bob and Dusty Bennett were not aware, that it became this blown-out, multi-decade urban legend. He may be completely unaware of his celebrity, of his notoriety.
Yeah, that'd be kind of crazy.
That would be crazy.
That'd be an interesting story, is confronting this fellow. And did you know? No, I had no idea. I would dearly like to hear an answer to the question, why a bunny suit? And where does one get a large bunny suit?
Have
you ever seen Shining?
Yeah.
And you know that scene at the end with the man with the bear suit?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's running along in the hotel, and she comes across that one group, and the creepiest thing in that entire creepy film is that one guy in the animal suit looking blankly at the camera. And that story is unresolved. Why is he there? What's he doing? What is going on with this? And it's just kind of creepy. So why a bunny? I don't know.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Why'd you dress up as a bunny and run around with a hatchet? That'd be a pretty good question to ask.
Yeah, and the funny thing about the police reports is they never say a man in a bunny suit. They talk about a large white bunny. Large rabbit at large. Yeah. So, anyway.
That's a great way they put it.
Yeah. Large rabbit at large.
No, we think it's one person. We really think it's one person.
Yeah, it has to be. I don't see. I feel like there would have been more incidents.
I believe it's one person.
If it was like a cult thing, I feel like there would have been more than 2 incidents.
Oh, if they were like a cult of bunny men, you mean?
If there was just like a group of bunny men, I feel like.
Well, there's a concept. Yeah. We are the bunny men. Build houses here at your, at your own risk. Yeah, and here's another thing. After receiving this information, I responded to the Kings Park West subdivision in an attempt to locate the large white rabbit. Once again, not a man in a rabbit suit, but the police kept referring to him as a large white rabbit. Anyway.
Wow.
Apparently they made a Bunny Man movie. It's like a horror movie. It looks really bad. It looks so cheap.
Oh, are you looking on the YouTube and you see a Bunny Man film, do you?
Yeah. Someone in 2011 made a Bunny Man horror movie.
I wonder if it's accurate.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, he's like running around like a chainsaw.
Yeah, of course. Well, see, I'm a historian. In fact, I'm an author. I've written 3 books about my hometown, Burbank, California. And I've found out that the actual historical facts are always more interesting than the things people come up with.
Oh, I love the real ones. That's what we're all about. We want to hear the real stuff.
I think the made up stuff sometimes hurts like the validity of like the real stuff, because then people just start like labeling it all as like, it's fake, it's bullshit.
Yeah, people always go for the juiciest stories and disregard what actually happened. But I think what actually happened is always more interesting.
Well, please tell us if you have any information, listeners, please. And that axe that you were talking about earlier, they actually have the axe still, right?
Yeah, it's on the. If you go to my YouTube page and you look up, I interviewed the Bunny Man victims. Yep, it's there. You can see it.
That's pretty cool.
There's a newspaper associated with it on the plaque, and the byline was "Bad guy wore a white hood." And that's a little bit in the newspaper. It's on this plaque, and then the hatchet's attached to the plaque, and then there's a brass plaque saying something about your hair-raising experience. Yeah, there it is. Our hair-raising experience. And it says 1969, but it clearly wasn't 69. They got the date wrong, whoever made the plaque. It was done as a joke for the Bennetts. It was 1970.
And so you've been to all these places, right?
Yes, I have. Actually, I'm looking at the newspaper article now that's on the plaque, and it said 2 weeks ago, Air Force Cadet Robert Bennett and his fiancée were sitting in a car on the 5400 block of Guinea Road in Fairfax when a man ran from the bushes behind the car and threw a hatchet through the rear window. Bennett later said that the man had shouted, "You are on private property, you are trespassing, and I've got your tag number." Recent press reports have indicated that Bennett told police the attacker was dressed in a white suit with big bunny ears. And then it talks about, here's an interesting bit of flavor from the time. His fiancée said she thought it looked like the man was wearing a hood like the Ku Klux Klan wear.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's in
That
that.
has the bunny man take a turn.
Yeah, that's a weird turn for it. But once again, this is the 1970s. I mean, I lived through it. I remember the environment then. It was
Right.
there are all sorts of references and things people talked about that we don't really discuss anymore. So, but anyway, that you can read that newspaper article, the part that's not obscured by the hatchet handle on that YouTube video. Once again, I interviewed the Bunnyman victims. And there is a link if you go to that and then you open up my notes from it. I provided links to Brian A. Conley's The Bunny Man Unmasked. That's at the Fairfax County.gov. Let's see if that link is still active. That's the most important. Yep, it still is. The Real Life Origins of an Urban Legend by Brian A. Conley, historian archivist, Fairfax County Public Library. That is still on the fairfaxcounty.gov page. And it's a long story. He did a very good job in researching this. He talks about stories that were associated. He looked up various horrible crimes and to try and track down if any bunny men having to do with that. But he eventually came up with the right story.
Do most of the locals now, do they know the true story? Or what are they going to tell me if I ask them?
Well, they'll tell you what they told me, which was mainly, we didn't live here at the time, and yeah, we understand that there's a bunny man story, but I can't tell you anything about it because we didn't move here until 1984 or something like that. Yeah, that was kind of a cold trail. I never really did talk to anybody other than the Bennetts who had direct knowledge of the bunny man.
I mean, at the brewery, maybe, right? You said that's like a place where
Well,
people...
that's the clearinghouse for all bunny man information. Yeah, that's a real good place to start because that's where people go. I'm sure they get clientele who are interested and intrigued in the name, and they come by and see what's going on and have a glass of artisan beer while they're at it. But yeah, talk to the owner of the Bunnyman Brewery. He probably knows more than I do.
So you've
he
heard
gets
it
it
here.
all the time.
I mean, that's where you got to start.
Yeah, he lives it. But, then Brian Conley has a whole bunch of sources in the Washington Post and the Fairfax Herald and all sorts of things. It's very thoroughly documented. Quite good. Very good article. So I do encourage your listeners to look up Brian A. Conley's article. I'd give you the URL, but it's clunky.
All right.
But if you're in research.fairfaxcounty.gov, you're in the right place.
So, I mean, we pretty much cracked this case, I think. Curbs, what do you think this one is? Theories?
What do you mean, what do you think it is? Like...
Well, I mean, apparently there's a different amount of different stories for this Bunnyman case. I think...
Probably just some crazy dude in a bunny outfit who's just, like, you know, very protective about maybe, like, his property. That's what it sounds like.
Don't trespass. Especially
Don't
during
trespass
Easter.
near the bunny, man.
Now, here's the funny thing. I believe I have grandchildren, and they're attending the Fairfax County school system, and yeah, they've heard of a bunny man as well. So here it is. This thing has been going on now for 50 years.
The legend
It
lives
just
on.
keeps getting recycled every generation.
Hopefully it doesn't inspire any new bunnies.
Yeah, you mean, copycat crimes, you mean, yeah. Well, it's all sort of pointless, isn't it? I mean, I think Fairfax County's been developed all it can be. It's basically wall-to-wall house or building or office building or something. It isn't what it was in 1970. And that's another important thing about this. Virginia is very much a different place now than it was in 1970. I live in Caroline County, which is midway between Fredericksburg and Richmond, and Northern Virginia's sprawl and crawl has made its way all the way down 95 to Fredericksburg. Fredericksburg is getting to be like Fairfax. You merge into traffic there and you're bumper to bumper right away. And but Virginia in 1970 was not like that at all. It was remote. It was sort of the hinterlands. Everything that was going on really was happening in Washington, D.C., and not the suburbs. Right. So there's that aspect of the story as well. that the Bunny Man country, as it was in 1970, was considerably more rural than it is today.
So the victims, right? The Bennetts you talked to,
Mhm.
they still have this axe. They still have a bunch of evidence, I guess.
Well, no, the only evidence they have is the axe and their
Just the
memories
axe.
of that evening.
Right.
The axe that's on a plaque, yeah. I suppose that's somewhere in their house. And,
How do
do
they?
they hang it up on their walls? I don't know.
Well, I was gonna
So,
say, how do they recall this? Encounter. Are they like horrified by it, or are they like, oh, it's just a little thing?
oh, no. Oh, no. No, you can listen to the interview and you'll find that, I guess bemused might be the best word. It
Okay.
was a little scary when it happened because you're sitting there talking to your fiance, and all of a sudden a hatchet goes crashing through your passenger side window, and then this guy screaming at you wearing a Bunny Man suit at nighttime. That was probably pretty disturbing because they ran right over to where his cousin lived, not far away, and called the cops. So, yeah, but 50 years on, they probably just regarded as being, remember the days when we were just about to get married and we came up with that stupid Bunny Man? Oh, yeah, I remember that. I'm guessing they probably talk about it in those terms.
This is a cool case. Any final words, Curbs, Wes?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I think I've talked myself out about our Bunny Man.
Yeah, I think you need a break.
I'm really at a loss to come up with anything other on this case other than what I've said.
Yeah.
But I do want to encourage your listeners to look up Brian Carlney's article and then look up my my YouTube. If, as a matter of fact, please do ignore all of the nonsense YouTube videos out there about the Bunny Man. They're sensationalistic, they're bogus, they're very poorly done. And check out the source, the historical source. Go to the genesis of the story and listen to what the Bennetts have to say in their own words.
From the Sinister District and the Great Beyond, thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the strangest things begin with something real hiding in the dark. Good night.